All right, I'm going to call the Lake Mill City Council meeting for November 17th, 2020 to order. Could I get the roll call vote, please, Misty?
Mr. Fields? Oh, I'm sorry.
Geez, first mistake.
I know. Okay, I'll take my phone here. Diane?
Here.
Mr. Foster?
Here.
Mr. Fritsch?
Here.
Ms. Schmidt?
Here.
Oh, she is here.
Oh, thank
Awesome.
you.
Good deal. You got everybody? I'm sorry, we got everybody.
Yes,
All
we
right.
do.
All right, let's move on to item 3, Pledge of Allegiance. If you can, please rise and let's say the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America,
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
All right, that moves us on to item 4, correction and or approval of the City Council minutes of November 3rd, 2020. Do I have a motion of adoption?
So move.
Thank you, Mr. Fritsch. Do we have a second?
Second.
Oh, second.
Thank you, Vicky. We got Vicky as a second. Let's call the roll call vote, please.
Mr. Foster?
Aye.
Mr. Fritsch?
Aye.
Ms. Schmidt?
Aye.
Diane?
Aye.
Motion passed 4-0.
Item 5, correspondence. How about you, Mr. Fritsch? Want to start with you?
Nothing that to report.
Okay. Diane?
Nothing to report.
Vicky?
I was contacted about boat parking on Sandy Beach Road. And I was also contacted about the possibility of doing a no parking area on Mud Lake Road.
Oh, okay. So I had a few emails from some people with some questions on different things coming up on the agenda. And I did receive a very nice letter from the Joint Rock Lake Committee thanking me for the words that I put in the paper about them. So I just want to mention that I really appreciate them reaching out to me and letting me know that they read my stuff in the paper. That is all I had. So we'll move on to questions and public comment. The public is encouraged to address the council at this time regarding items on the agenda. There is no public hearing, so public comments may also be made at this time on items that are not on the agenda if you have registered with the city clerk before the meeting has been called to order. The state's open meeting law discourages actions by the council on items not listed on the agenda. Please keep your comments limited to 3 minutes and state your name and address when starting your comments. If you're in the building here, fill out the sign-in sheet provided, and for those attending online, if you have comments, we'll ask you to type your information into the chat feature. So we'll start and see if there's anybody inside the building here. Is there anybody? No? Okay, nobody in the building. Do we have anybody online that wishes to speak in public comment? If you did say something, your mic was on mute, so one more chance. Okay. Hearing nothing, we will move on to the city manager's report. Are you going to take that for Steve, Dan? The city manager's report? I can't even talk. City manager's report. So it looks like all we have here is the check register, the utility check register, and the monthly police report. Does anybody have any questions on any of those? No, I didn't see anything that raised any concern either, so we will move on to item 8. The acceptance of minutes from the Joint Rock Lake Committee, of September 1, 2020, the Zoning Board of Appeals of July 1st, 2020, and the Senior Advisory Board minutes of November 9th, 2020 will go on record as written. That moves us into item 9, council business. And the first item is item A, discussion decision on the cemetery plat expansion. Could I get that motion's title read, please?
City Council Motion 20-11-2-1, authorizing the city manager to execute an agreement for technical services related to the expansion of the Rock Lake Cemetery.
All right, do I have a motion on motion 20-11-2-1?
So moved, Diane.
Okay. Is there a second? Second by Doug, thank you. Who is gonna speak on this one on behalf of the staff?
Hey, Mike, it's Rob.
Hey, Rob.
So if you got any questions, maybe I can probably help you out.
Why don't
Yeah,
you explain?
Yep, please explain exactly what's going on.
Sure, Rock Lake Cemetery is starting to get filled up. We got approximately less than 200 plots left. A lot of those plots are not desirable locations. Some are in the old section of the cemetery, which, was 1800s. Very questionable if we want to do digging up in those areas, depending on trying to find old records, things like that. A lot of singles. So we're getting down to a point where we need to start thinking about, that area we have available there to start moving into. This just allows us to get a plan for in that area for future development.
Now, the area you're talking about is the field to the west.
Correct. Which we already own.
Yeah, that was gonna be my question. Now, I did see a dollar figure included with this. Was this something that was, I'm assuming it wasn't budgeted and we're looking outside the budget to provide this fund?
Correct. Steve had mentioned possibly taking it out of the council contingency fund. And that's for all the engineering work to get the plats done, to get it registered, to get it all marked out. So at some point in the future, when we're ready to do a development, we already have the plans. We're ready to go.
So what kind of plots are you thinking of? Multi burials? I saw, I think, a suggestion for a never seen the term before.
Columbarium.
Yeah, columbarium.
There is a map that I sent along from Strand. Most of them are your conventional plots. Columbariums are becoming very big in cemeteries right now. You can put a lot more people in a smaller area. So, that's just one. Future, you may want to put more in if they become very popular.
How about some other types of burials such as natural decomposition and stuff like that?
Did not look into that.
So these would all be traditional.
Correct. But it's just the plans to get potentially moving forward doesn't mean alterations can be made later on. If it's something in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, this isn't going to fill up, in the next few years. It's not even going to be built probably in the next few years. But we at least have a design to get ourselves thinking and moving when we do need more area.
There was in the aerial photograph of the area, there was a notice that some graves are potentially across the property line. Is that true?
We don't know until they go out and do surveying.
Oh. We don't own that property?
We do not own that property that's north of the new area expansion. That was that cornfield out there.
Yep.
We do not own the cornfield.
So then they would have to be moved?
We'd have to look at potentially moving or seeing if we can purchase a section of that property.
No.
And that until we get it surveyed, you know, we don't know exactly if this is just coming off the GIS mapping. But when Strand comes out and does the actual physical locations of everything, we'll know a lot more.
Well, if they're talking about having crypts for cremated remains, I would hope that, is it cremated remains or is it raised burials like a mausoleum? Or is it all of the above or what?
As far as in this plan or the columbarium?
Yeah, for the columbarium.
My understanding that's like a cremation, but it's more like vaults, more like a wall with individual locations for everyone. So you put a lot more people in a smaller area.
Right. Yeah.
And we just put one on here. If it's very popular, we can take more sections and keep adding them. This is a starting plan for it. Like I said, in the future, if something becomes popular, we can alter the plan.
I just would hope that I noticed that another local cemetery, a vault, hope for little crypts for cremated remains. And it looked like the way they had placed it looked like a footlocker for an athletic team. Kind of stuck out.
Yeah.
And Greg, the cemetery sexton's looking into all different types of columbariums, and when it becomes time to erect one, I'm sure that plan's going to come in front of council as far as the looks and all that.
Well, have we had any demand for that at all recently?
That I don't know. That I don't know because I don't do the sales and all that. But the legwork Greg's been doing has found out they are becoming very popular.
I would also look into, like I said, other forms of burial. I know Forest Home Cemetery in Milwaukee has, as I said, natural, I forget what the term is for it, where the body's naturally decayed.
Okay. Yeah, I can put that on for Strand to take a look at.
I'm sure there's some others that I'm not aware of.
Thanks, Doug. Does anybody else have any questions or comments for Rob? Okay, hearing none, we will call the vote on, motion 20-11-2-1.
Mr. Fritsch,
Aye.
Ms. Schmidt,
Aye.
Diane,
Aye.
Mr. Foster,
Aye.
motion passed 4-0.
Okay, item B, discussion decision on Humane Society contract. Could I get that motion title read, please?
City Council Motion 20-11-2-2, authorizing the city manager to execute an agreement between the City of Lake Mills and Humane Society of Jefferson County.
Okay, do we have a motion of adoption for
So
this
moved.
motion? Thank you,
Doug.
Doug. Is there a second?
Second,
That was Vicky?
yep.
Okay, thanks, Vicky. This is the normal thing that we do every single year. Does anybody have any questions for the staff on this? I don't remember what we paid last year, but I think it's pretty darn close to what we paid.
Yeah, they were talking about the fact that they wouldn't chose not to increase their rates.
Right. And that makes sense, and we thank them for that. So, yeah, unless there's any other questions on this, we can call the vote on this because this is something we budget every year for. Okay, go ahead and call a vote.
Ms. Schmidt,
Aye.
Diane,
Aye.
Mr. Foster,
Aye.
Mr. Fritsch,
I
motion passed 4-0.
Thank you. Could I get item C, resolution 20-42 read, please, or the title read?
Resolution 20-42, approving boundary and project plan for tax incremental district number 8, City of Lake Mills in Jefferson County, Wisconsin.
Thank you. Do we have a motion of adoption for resolution 20-42?
also move.
Thank you, Doug. Is there a second?
Second, Diane.
Thank you, Diane. Okay. So this has gone through the Plan Commission, and the recommendation is to approve the plan to move forward to the Joint Review Board for Tax Increment District 8, which is the downtown area. So if we vote on this and we vote in the affirmative on this, this just moves this forward to the next step in the process. I believe we have Dustin Wolf online. Dustin, would you like to give us an overview of what we're looking at here?
Certainly. As you mentioned, we did have the public hearing, second public hearing, if you will. As you recall, we started this way back in March. Obviously, because of COVID, we convened the public hearing and then postponed it to a future date, which was last month at the Plan Commission. It's important to note that in the boundary, we sent a letter out to all of the property owners to inform them of this project plan and boundary and district creation. We did conduct a blight study. So we did evaluate all the properties over a series of days last year because this will be a blight elimination district. In essence, that's a redevelopment district, very similar to what we did down on the south end where TID number 5 is at Main Street and Sandy Beach Road. So in essence, that gives a longer time period for the TID to be in place, longer time period to undertake projects and to pay back projects. The focus of this TID was, of course, redevelopment of the now vacant Century site. But the TIF boundary is large because we want to be able to, over the life of the TID, help as many properties in and around the downtown area as we can with potential projects. That might be facade improvement, that might be streetscaping or signage, wayfinding when you get away from Main Street or Lake Street. Again, a variety of things. There are sidewalk improvement projects that are outlined as possibilities, road projects. Hopefully, if the TID is successful, having rehabilitation monies available to property owners to help make interior improvements to sites. So again, very wide reaching. It's important to understand that in creation of this district, it does not commit the city to doing any or all of these projects. Any projects would come to the council for approval before any projects were to commence. We do have a pro forma in there, so we have some development assumptions for the Century site. There are some graphics. By law, we need to have maps and graphics in there to earmark what's possible for that area. So we show some commercial and residential development focused on the Century site. Those are representational for the possible development that could happen there, things that we've been hearing from developers that they'd like to see in that area. But it's important again to note the process that we follow in the city for all development will be followed. Any development proposal will have to go to the Plan Commission for review and scrutiny, and of course it will come to the council for review and approval before anything would be finalized. So again, while it is a project plan and we try to be as detailed as we can, we are crystal balling a little bit here. So we please don't take the graphics in there as being verbatim. A developer coming in will have to present them to the city for any approvals. In the end, as Mr. Foster had stated, if you do choose to approve this, it will then go on to the Joint Review Board, which is the taxing jurisdictions to finalize the plan. And then again, once the plan is created, all decision making lies with the City Council. And as you know, developers agreements are always drafted by the city attorney and working with developers before anything happens in our tax increment districts. I could certainly answer any specific questions you have. There is a prepared resolution, as always, that is very lengthy because there are specific things that need to be in there by statute. The Department of Revenue requires us to list all the elements of the project plan, a series of findings, and such. So I can answer any questions you may have.
Yes, you talked about some assumptions. Would you go through those so people can know what they are?
Of course. So in the center of the plan, generally starting on page 21 of the document, is a series of graphics that shows the redevelopment of the Century site. And that is, in essence, one option. There are countless options. We are showing on the south side of the development, off of Water Street, some townhouses. And then on the north side, facing the park, we are showing first floor commercial on the ends, and then residential development up to 4 stories. Again, these graphics are representational. They are trying to illustrate to the public, to the development community, what is possible there. Having a little verticality on the north end because it's adjacent to the park. And then on the east and west, it's commercial, which is already on the west end is already 30 feet, 35 feet in height. So trying to stay in keeping with that. That's what it's highlighting, a series of dwelling units and then some commercial development in there. If the project plan is created, this does not commit you to this specific development. It is, as I said, representational, so we can gain an understanding of what could occur there, what kind of revenues it could generate. As we talked about at the Plan Commission public hearing, the more value created on the Century site, the more dollars would be available to the entire district for projects, for improvements. So certainly having high value on the Century site is important because it is very rare to have a vacant 2-acre site in the heart of a historic downtown. That said, any development there does need to be absolutely context sensitive and respectful of the historic context of downtown. These graphics, as I said, are representational. A developer will need to come in and present to the Plan Commission and present to the council to get approval before anything could happen on the site.
Does that answer your questions, Doug?
Yeah.
Does anybody else have any questions?
I know that a member of the virtual audience has a question, and I know this isn't necessarily the time to open it up, but I was wondering if the council would entertain any questions from the audience. That's Attorney Drescher, by the way.
So hearing that we have a question from the audience, would anybody like to make a motion to suspend the rules?
So moved.
All right, we got Vicky for the motion and Doug for the second. Please call a roll call vote, please.
Diane,
Aye.
Mr. Foster,
Aye.
Mr. Fritsch,
Aye.
Ms. Schmidt,
Aye.
motion passed 4-0.
Okay.
Okay, I believe Michelle Quidnow has a question.
You said my name correctly. Good job.
I tried, thank you.
Actually, I'm happy to say that the presentation actually answered my question. I was just, it was in the last bit where it was talking about the historical element of downtown Lake Mills. I wanted to ensure that there was going to be preservation of that. And so by saying that this is just a representation, not necessarily a contract, I appreciate knowing that there's going to be more discussion about what that's going to look like. So no questions now.
Thank you, Michelle.
Michelle, can I please get your address?
Absolutely. I apologize. I realized that was something I was supposed to do. 312 Stonefield Drive.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, are there any other questions for anybody on the staff or for Mr. Dustin Wolf?
Yeah, I guess you gave us some samples of various developments such as the cannery in Sun Prairie and so on. I guess in regard to historical context, I look at the development on in Madison on not University, but
East Washington.
not East Washington. Well, East Washington, but I'm thinking more just west of State Street on westbound. What is it, Johnson?
Okay.
That goes to the university.
Mhm.
How it's become a canyon. I'm not sure. So I don't particularly care for that development. Of course, it's developed a canyon. It's a bigger city. So in other words, it's going to be a negotiation between the developer and the city and our constituents as to what is the historical context.
Absolutely. You are going to look to the developer to meet your criteria. The projects in Madison, I think when you look at whether it's East Wash, Johnson, the others, you're talking a city of nearly 300,000 people. Those buildings have a height of 15 to 20, sometimes 25 stories. They're big. They're huge. That's not the kind of verticality we would be looking at in downtown Lake Mills. I would think at the tallest you could maybe, if someone had a really excellent design, maybe 5 stories. I think 4 stories is very likely because that gets them a unit count that makes everything pencil out. I mean, they have elevators and you're going to have some level of underground or lower level parking in the back. I mean, there are expenses associated with it to make that site valuable, and they want the verticality so you get the best views. The buildings to the 3-story buildings in downtown are generally around 40 feet. So 40 to 45 feet is really usually a 4-story building. But I would never envision especially since I've been working since 2004, seeing anything of the magnitude that you would see in such an urban environment like a Madison or Milwaukee or downtown Green Bay. And your Main Street, your historic committees, the Plan Commission, everyone's going to have some input on what is appropriate. We don't want to try to predict what a developer might come in with. We don't want to stifle creativity. We don't want to stifle opportunity. We want them to present to you what they feel would work. And moreover, you give them feedback on what you feel is appropriate for downtown Lake Mills. That staff may have some ideas, but again, until it gets through the public process, to talk about any specific design type, I think is very limiting. We know that we want a combination of commercial, hopefully some office opportunities, and residential in the downtown. And from there, it is up to a developer to prove to you that their project meets with your approval.
So in other words, it would be more appropriate to look at, as an example, Sun Prairie's downtown cannery development.
Sun Prairie is very good. There's some stuff on Monroe Street in Madison, which is generally 3-4 stories. There's some stuff out in Middleton is excellent. The stuff they did in downtown Middleton is generally 3 and 4 stories along the bike paths and adjacent to their to kind of their downtown nucleus. There's things in Verona in their downtown that were good, and the same with some of the new areas of Fitchburg. So I don't want to say that there aren't other areas, but we were asked to provide just kind of a litany of new improvement types in urban settings. But you're going to have to see what's appropriate. Again, the Commons Park is wide open. You know, a taller building isn't looming over anybody's home. Stepping down as it goes south, obviously towards the homes that are on Water Street, is important. But without knowing what a developer says can kind of meet their test for financial viability, and then wedding that to public meetings where they are getting scrutinized by all those entities that I talked about, it's just too difficult in a project plan to get that detailed. There are so many different ways to kind of develop that 2-acre site in your downtown. We wanted to show one that we felt conceivably could work, and then we needed to know what the value would be so we could do some projections in a pro forma. But this is a pay-go TID as proposed, so there aren't any borrowings that are expected up front. You won't undertake projects until a developer comes in and negotiates the development and the developer's agreement with you. So very similar to what's being done on the south side off of on Sandy Beach, Main Street, and very similar to what happened up with the Gunlock development, the Lake Mills Market and such. Those were all, dollars were not expended, commitments were not made by the city until they went through the review process and then the development agreement process that came to the council.
Thank you.
Certainly.
All right. Anybody else? Vicky, Diane?
No, nothing for me.
All right. Yeah, I've seen this for over a year, so I don't have any questions because I've had them answered in the Plan Commission and other meetings. So if there is no other questions, we'll entertain a vote on Resolution 20-42. Go ahead and call a vote, please, when you get a
Mr.
chance.
Foster,
Aye.
Mr. Fritsch,
Aye.
Ms. Schmidt,
Aye.
Diane,
Aye.
motion passed 4-0.
Thank you, Misty. Item 8, Resolution 20-43. When you get a chance, please read that motion or resolution, excuse me.
Resolution 20-43, authorizing the city manager to file applications for financial assistance from State of Wisconsin Environmental Improvement Fund.
Okay, do I have a motion of adoption for resolution 20-43?
So
I move
moved.
adoption
Diane.
2043.
Okay, we got Diane. Do you want to take the second, Vicky?
Second.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. All right, and I see Mr. Hermanson here.
Good
Are you
evening.
taking this?
Yeah, and for any of the people in pets that don't know me, I'm Paul Hermanson, Director of Public Works. And I think as you guys have been informed, we are applying for the newest round of funding for residents to replace their lead service laterals. This is looks like a really good program. It's being put together by the Public Service Commission, the DNR, and the Department of Administration. And this resolution that you have in front of you tonight is really kind of a formality. We have applied for the funds. We met the deadlines for application. Once we did that, the DNR informed us that we then need a resolution from the council indicating, of course, that we have applied. We've got approval from the council to apply, and appointing Steve as, the general administrator, overseer of this program. So that's what you're considering this evening.
Okay.
I have
Go
a
ahead, Doug.
question. Paul, with the, this is an entirely different grant than the previous one, correct?
That is correct, Doug. The previous one, if you recall, was for $300,000, max of $300,000 per community to be spent over a 3-year period. This is a 1-year program. It's going to be a series of 1-year programs. There's about $63 to $65 million in the kitty for this program. And so municipalities have to apply every year for new funding. And so this is really just for the 2021, or excuse me, the 21 construction season.
So can I ask how many more lead laterals do we still have to go?
I think, if I remember right, we are in the high 200s. For some reason, I've got like 260 in my mind. I think that's pretty close.
And we're looking at this thing to cover, what did we say? What did you say in the letter? Like 35 of them?
Yeah,
4,000
35 is what we're applying for. It's kind of a flexible thing, if we go
Right.
39, 34, or 40, that's fine. And I'll just explain real briefly. The reason for that number is multifold. First of all, these are going to include some of the people that wanted to use the previous funding mechanism and we had to put on a waiting list. It also includes people that live on streets that we're going to be reconstructing in 21, to where we have known lead laterals. We'll be able to replace those. And then, if we have some funds left, it's just people throughout the city that would like to use the funds. But the other thing that's very important about this is that we limit the number that we can replace in a given year, because by DNR rule, if a homeowner replaces their lead lateral service and we have a lead service on our side, understand that the curb stop, that belongs to the homeowner. That goes into the house, the part that goes to the water main belongs to us. And if that's lead, we have to replace it also. So we're doing this with our budget in mind also. And so we anticipate that if we have to replace all 35 laterals, that's something that the water utility can absorb and we can handle financially.
And would this be possible for next year and the year after and so on?
Yeah, the DNR right now, anticipates that they will have a minimum of 3 years of funding out of that 65 million-ish or so, and could be more. And the only stipulation they have right now is that no single community can take more than 25% of the funds. And so that's really aimed at Milwaukee and not allowing them to just absorb all this money. So yeah, I think you will be able to apply for several years.
All right. Thanks for the questions, Doug. Does anybody else have any other questions? Hearing nothing, we will call a roll call vote, please.
Mr. Fritsch,
Aye.
Ms. Schmidt,
Aye.
Diane,
Aye.
Mr. Foster.
Aye,
Motion passed 4-0.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item E, Resolution 20-44. When you get a moment, could you read that title, please?
Resolution 20-44, authorizing the sale of city-owned real estate located at 1220 South Main Street.
Do we have a motion of adoption for Resolution 20-44?
I move resolution 20-44.
Thank you, Doug. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, Diane.
Oh, Vicky got it first. Okay, so I think we're gonna move this into the city attorney's hands to give us a little bit of information on it.
Okay, hello, everybody. As you know, there was a Class 1 notice published on October 1st and October 8th requesting bids, proposals, offers on this particular property, 1220 South Main Street. It is the property that the city previously acquired from the Topels, the barn, in the Highway 89 rebuild. A large portion of the property we acquired was taken in the course of that project, and the barn was razed. So we are looking to sell the remnants. We are in a situation where we had received an offer to purchase prior to the notice to request bids. The council thought that it was a prudent and appropriate move to put it out for kind of a public notice and sale process. So the time period for that notice period has eclipsed. It was October 29th, I believe. The same offer that was presented prior to that period was presented again, and that is the Vita Plus offer that's in front of you. It is approximately $25,500 for approximately 0.42 acres. It's a good offer with regard to contingencies and everything like that. It'll close fast, and we can move forward. The council has a decision to make in front of them. Based on the memo that I presented to you, I view your options as basically threefold. You could counter the offer, you could accept the offer, or you could decline the offer, and you do have kind of leeway to decline the offer if you're not satisfied with the terms despite the public notice. From my discussions with you in closed session and up until this point, I know that you're interested in selling the property, so I think it's an appropriate time to have a discussion on the offer itself and how the council wants to proceed. Any questions for me? I'm certainly happy to address them.
So yeah, we do know that we got this offer well ahead of time before we ever thought about it, and we did do our process to make sure it was notice published, and the process was handled as transparently as possible. We do have the offer, and what do I see here? So the motion that we currently have on Resolution -24 is to accept the offer. So if we wanted,
That's correct. That's how I drafted it. Correct.
yep. So if you wanted to do anything other than accept the offer, we would have to make an amendment to that motion, or to the Resolution 20-44. So I will leave that up to you folks, what you think is the best. We've been working on this for well over 2 months now. So what is your take on this? What would you like to do?
I would, this is Diane. I would like to just mention that this property, if I'm correct, and correct me if I'm wrong, is between two other properties, so it's not really a property that's open to the public or like a driveway out on the road, things like that, right?
It does have frontage on Highway 89, South Main Street. The property to the south and east is owned by Vita Plus. The property to the north is really the Glacial Drumlin Trail, and then 1204 South Main Street, which the city has sold for development to Formal Development LLC.
Thank you.
Okay, so I am not hearing any amendments.
One
Go ahead, Doug.
question.
Yep.
Let's see, what did they say they were contemplating using it for?
In the short term, they will basically use it for storage of vehicles for parking, I believe. That's currently what they use the property adjacent to the south and east for. That's the old self-service gas station that the tank has been removed and everything like that. In the future, I think because they own then both lots, they contemplate expanding their business processes into that area, or just view it as a parcel that has the most value to them because of the adjacent property to the south and east. They haven't been very concrete on what their future plans on. In the short term, it's certainly just for kind of intermittent parking and kind of accessory use to their business processes across the street.
Thank you.
Does that change anybody's mind? Hearing nothing,
It's a little vague.
yeah, but they really don't, yeah, they really don't have to tell us what they're gonna use it for when they buy it, unfortunately. But we do have an offer, and it's the only offer we've had.
I guess I just hope that it fits into the uses maintained with the other upgrades that we're contemplating in the area.
Yeah. Okay. If there's
Is
nothing
this
else,
property part of the TIF district?
ooh,
Yes, yes, it is.
It is.
It's part of TID number 5.
You know what it's zoned as?
I can find out real quick. Because of the former use, the barn, I would think it came in as RD, but I can find that out.
Because that would impact whether or not I would want to sell it, because if they're just going to store vehicles on it, it's not going to be a very attractive property. And we're trying to develop the south end of town.
Okay. So he's running off to see what he can find. But I'm betting it's going to be. We do have somebody here that is willing to speak to the uses of the property. Would somebody like to suspend the rules?
So also move.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Vicky. Could we call the roll call vote, please?
Ms. Schmidt,
Aye.
Diane,
Aye.
Mr. Foster,
Aye.
Mr. Fritsch,
Aye.
motion passed 4-0.
All right. Thank you.
And then just if I could, I did look up the zoning on the property. It appears to have come into the city as, or remained as PI after the city acquired it. So planned industrial.
Oh, okay. If you could get to the the iPad there. Is that on? Hold on one second. We'll make sure it's on for you.
Okay, I'm Tony Newton. I'm the general manager of Vita Plus on the south side. And main plan for the property is to buy it because it's adjacent property. And really we have no intention of building anything. So when it mentions that we're all expand on our current business, we park trailers on our current property, and we really just intend to clean up the site a little bit, take the trees down, possibly work with the DNR to have a cleaner corner. So we have no intentions of putting up any buildings or anything like that. It's just adjacent property that'll add to what we already own.
All right, thank you. Does anybody have any questions?
Well, whatever it's going to be used at, it's going to be subject to our planned industrial zoning. So there will be some requirements that it'll have to meet.
Right.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Okay, folks. Any amendments? If not, I'm going to ask for a roll call vote. Are we okay with that?
Yep.
Okay. Let's go ahead and call a roll call vote on resolution 20-44.
Diane,
Aye.
Mr. Foster,
Aye.
Mr. Fritsch,
Aye.
Ms. Schmidt,
No,
motion passed 3-1.
All right. Thank you, folks. Where are we at here? All right. Item F, Ordinance 1219. Can I get that title read when you're ready, please?
This is a first reading, so I'll go ahead and read it in its entirety.
Oh, yep, you're right. Sorry.
Ordinance 1219, amending Chapter 38, City Council, Article 4, Council Vacancy, Section 38-4, Council Vacancy. The City Council of the City of Lake Mills, Jefferson County, Wisconsin, does hereby amend Chapter 38, Article 4, Section 38-4, repealing existing ordinance language and adopting Wisconsin Statute Chapter 17.23. In Section 1, all the language is stricken and is hereby repealed and replaced with Section 38-4, Council Vacancy. A vacancy in the office of council member shall be filled by the council in accordance with Wisconsin Statute Section 17.23. Section 2, the City Council of the City of Lake Mills hereby adopts Wisconsin Statute 17.23 and any amendments thereto. Section 3, adoption of this ordinance amendment has been sponsored by City Council Representative Vicky Schmidt. Section 4, all ordinances or parts of ordinances inconsistent with or contravening the provisions of this ordinance are hereby repealed. Section 5, this ordinance shall be in full force and effect upon passage and publication.
All right. Thank you. Is there any reason to move this forward quicker? Vicky?
I think that if we wanted to take action on our next agenda item, we should probably be clear on what we want to do about this agenda item. This would put us consistent with state statute where our ordinance is kind of outdated. It follows what the statute used to read several iterations ago. So this updates our city code to match what the statutes say. Doesn't tie our hands. We could still, the memo that was provided in the packet gives us 4 options of how to fill the vacancy. It gives us many more options than what our outdated ordinance allowed. The outdated ordinance kind of ties our hands with this 30-day requirement, and then you have to fill it within 60 days. And we're butting up real close to the time period for somebody to circulate nomination papers if they want to get on the ballot to fill out the rest of the seat, the remainder of the term in April. it gives them almost no time to, if we appointed somebody, they'd have to turn right around and petition for getting on to the April election. This gives us options. And so I think, to be fair, if we could adopt this tonight, that would inform our decision about how we want to fill the vacancy on the council. And it gives us more options about how we want to do it and when we want to do it. So I would advocate moving to the third reading.
I have one question.
Go ahead, Doug.
Is there going to be an April election regardless of what happens with this?
Yes.
Yes.
So in other words, we would not be spending any extra money to have a special single election for the council.
No, we wouldn't, but we may end up running into the process of being forced to reprint some things, especially if we don't adopt one of the rules, such as allowing this person that fills this the vacancy to remain on for the remainder of Mr. Fields' term. I hope that made sense to everybody. It's just one of the different options we have. So, and I know, yeah, and I know from my own experience getting on the council using this process and then having to turn around within a month to recanvass and redo the whole election piece. While it isn't fun, it can be done.
But we're in the middle of a pandemic now.
Where exactly, and who's going to go door to door to collect
And for
signatures?
somebody who's brand new to the council, I feel that that's going to be an awfully daunting task for anybody who's a brand new candidate. I feel sorry in a way for you, Mike, because you are going to be up in April, but you've been down this road before. If you choose to run again, you already know what it entails. It would be very daunting for somebody who has never gone through the process to figure out how to go about doing it, how to sanitize writing instruments in between each person's door, and to collect the signatures and even get people to answer the door.
Right.
So it's going to be very difficult this year.
Yeah. So,
Well, you said there were some other possibilities, ways of filling it that are not listed in the memo.
No, this gives us the options of what's in the memo. Otherwise, if we don't change the ordinance and we stick with the old language, our hands are tied. We absolutely have to fill it where, as soon as we fill the vacancy, that person has to go out and get themselves nominated so that then they can fill out the rest of the term in April.
yeah.
Now, does precedent work in this, or would it be the council's option on each particular vacancy that comes up and is not tied by the precedent?
Well, my thought there is that if you're operating under the statute that's provided, that as long as you're complying with the term of that statute, that there's not a precedential issue. Any of the statute offers kind of a lot of brevity or leeway in how you approach this situation. So I don't think because you do it necessarily one way one time, you'd have to go back and do it the exact same way in the future. The statute allows you certain flexibility. That is contrary to the ordinance as it sits now, which Vicky went over, which requires an appointment with between 30 and 60 days from tonight, basically, because this is the planning section. And then the appointee in that circumstance would remain in the vacant seat until the April election, which would be compelled. And then the person that would be elected in April would fill the seat for the remainder of the term, which is through 2022. If you adopt this statute and enjoy its flexibility, you could appoint for the entire term. You could wait until the election in April for that election to fill the entire term. You could stand and let it sit vacant for a period of time. It's drafted in such a way that it offers you much more flexibility.
Am I hearing a consensus for which one of the four possibilities?
I don't think that discussion has occurred. That's the next agenda item.
Yeah, he's right. That'll be the next agenda item. This will just allow us to have that discussion, next agenda item. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay. So if that's the
So
case,
I want to go, we have 3 readings right now.
yeah, that's what it sounds like. So do we have a motion to, do we have to move to the second reading and then the third reading?
There hasn't been any motion made at this point.
Right.
So what you do is motion to skip readings. You could motion to skip multiple readings in one motion.
Okay. So if that suits anybody's fancy, we can make a motion to skip readings 1 and 2 and move to the third reading, if anybody has that desire.
I make that motion to suspend the second and move straight to the third reading.
All right, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
I'll say,
Okay, thank you, Diane. Let's call the roll call vote on that, please.
Mr. Foster,
Aye.
Mr. Fritsch,
I,
Ms. Schmidt,
Aye.
Diane,
Aye.
motion passed 4-0.
Okay, thank you. So that means we are now currently on the third reading, and I believe we only have to read the title for it, correct?
Correct. Ordinance 1219, amending Chapter 38, City Council, Article 4, Council Vacancy, Section 38-4, Council Vacancy. The City Council of the City of Lake Mills, Jefferson County, Wisconsin, does hereby amend Chapter 38, Article 4, Section 38-4, repealing existing ordinance language and adopting Wisconsin Statute, Chapter 17.23.
Thank you. Do we have a motion for adoption of ordinance 1219?
I move adoption of ordinance, whatever.
1219.
Okay, I lost that part of my computer. Okay.
Yeah. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Doug.
Second.
Thank you. Is there any more discussion on this? So basically, this allows us to have flexibility now in how we move forward to make this appointment, and that'll be our next discussion. Okay, let's call a roll call vote, please.
Mr. Fritsch,
Aye.
Ms. Schmidt,
Aye.
Diane,
Aye.
Mr. Foster,
Aye.
motion passed 4-0.
Thank you, everyone. All right. So there is no motion or ordinance or anything drafted for this. So we're moving into discussion decision on a replacement timeline for vacated city council position. And what we will discuss is how we want that drafted by the city attorney. So he gave us some options, and those options were to run our normal process where we accept the resume papers from the candidates that would like to be considered. We will then be able to review those, set up a time and date at a future council meeting, and have it noticed that we will be discussing and making a decision on this. They'll get their time to present, and then we'll look for nominations and then voting on those nominations to fill that seat. Is that the process that everybody is comfortable with? If we move forward to fill the vacant seat and then pick one of the options for them to follow. The option would be that that person that's selected will fill the entirety of Mr. Fields' open position, or that person will have to fill a position and take out papers for an April election, or we could leave it open until April and then have a full election on it that would replace, or that person would then fill the remainder of Mr. Fields' seat and then have to go through another election, or we just leave it open for a while. So those are our different options. I'm kind of looking to you guys what your thoughts were. I would like to fill it sooner than later, and knowing the issues that person will run into trying to collect signatures and trying to get go door to door and get their face known to be able to get their nomination papers filled out may be a tough thing. So I would not be opposed to placing that person in the position until the end of Mr. Fields' term.
Which is
Right.
April 2022.
Exactly, April 2022. Yep.
So basically, it would be filling the term for 1 year and 4 months.
When
Yeah.
this process is done, I think that's a fair statement.
Yeah.
So is there a motion then to fill the appointment for the remainder of the term, fill by appointment for the remainder of the term? Perhaps that's the way we go about it. If you want to do this in a kind of a stepped process, if that's the route that we're going to go, perhaps we could have a motion in a second and a vote on that, and
Sure.
then go on with what the time frames are. With regard to Mr. Foster's opening statements on this issue, that is the way that you've handled filling appointments in the past. If there are multiple individuals that have applied for the appointment, you've gone through some form of first a noticed period of time for people to apply, and then a noticed meeting where the members of the public and the applicants can come in, and each applicant is essentially, I don't want to say interviewed by the council, but there's an introduction and a type of Q&A, and then nomination and filling an appointment that way. I think that's a great route to go. It's open to the public. It seeks public involvement, and you've done that in the past. That would be consistent, and you could certainly fill the appointment for the remainder of the term if that's your prerogative.
And with
Have
that
we
being,
had any problems with that?
Not in my tenure, but I haven't been involved with this before. So perhaps ask Vicky. I did go through historical appointments that have been made in the council as far back as the early 2000s, and that process has been used multiple times.
yeah, and it
Well, I
worked.
don't,
I'm sorry.
I
Vicky.
don't anticipate any problems with filling it, such as the city attorney suggested that we take our time in filling the position, then we're not rushed. And then when we do fill it, then that person is on the council until April 2022. And hopefully if they want to re-up, pandemic will be over and they can circulate papers like normal.
Yeah, and they'll be able to have had their feet wet and find out if it's truly for them without having to serve a full 4-year term.
Right. The other
Or there-
option would be to fill the seat now and then have the special election in April 2021. The person who would be appointed wouldn't really have a fair way of deciding whether or not they really want to stay on the council before they have to rush out and get papers filled. So I go along with what the council president is suggesting, and that we should go ahead and do a process where people can apply. We can speak with those people, those prospective council members at a future meeting, and then fill by appointment, and then fill it for the remainder of the term, which would be April 2022.
Yeah,
Then it's
so
a-
I'll make that motion that we fill that position using our current process, and the seat would be filled through the 2022 period.
We
second
take a vote on, do we take a vote
Vote.
on it or what?
We will, yes.
Second that motion.
Thank you, Diane. Diane seconded it. So we do have the motion on the floor right now to use our current process to notice it, fill the seat, and then that person would be on through the remainder until April 2022.
Right, which is the remainder of the term. The way I have it drafted is, and the only kind of ambiguity I see is the current process. If we could define that a little bit. What I have is fill by appointment using the current process for the remainder of the term, which ends April 2022.
Yep, and the current process will be
Notice and a request for applicants.
Yep, notice and request for applicants, the time period, whatever we decide that is. I don't know if it's like a 30-day period.
I think that seems about perfect to me.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm willing to work with whatever number you throw at me there.
Yeah, I'm thinking it's going to be we give it a 30-day period, so it's enough notice for everybody that wants to can get their papers and information out, and then at the next meeting following the 30 days, we will have the process noticed for our next city council meeting to run through the process of basic interviews and question and answer periods and nominations.
So interviews, Q&A, nomination, appointment at that same meeting.
Appointment at the same meeting.
Okay, I got this.
So in other words, we would start, the 30 days would start as soon as, well, after this meeting, assuming
Upon notice,
On
we're going to
notice.
have to get it noticed. So there's going to be a little bit of a lag there. I guess I'd like Misty's input on this one, but I think we could get that published yet this for the next cycle of the Lake Mills Leader, which would be next week. Thursday would be Thanksgiving. So I think if we get it make the request this week yet. Go ahead, Misty.
They have an early deadline because of Thanksgiving.
Yeah, and that's what I want Misty to comment on.
Yep, the deadline for publication for next week is Thursday at noon.
So if we can get it done this week and publish the notice, then we can start the 30 days at basically Thanksgiving, the date of publication. That is actually Wednesday, the day before Thanksgiving.
so in other words, we would be making a decision in early January.
Yeah, that's the timeline I'm seeing.
Yep, I think that's the only option we've got. Yeah.
So with that being said, and we have the motion and the second, is there any other conversation on it, or do we want to vote on this?
Well, I just would like to say that I think it's a good plan. And I think the time on the council goes very quickly. At least in my mind, that you get on and it seems like it's time to run for office again. So,
Yeah.
so I think doing it this way, I think it makes it more reasonable, particularly with the COVID-19 issue too.
Yeah.
So I think it's a good motion.
All right, thank you, Dan. So with that being said, let's call a roll call vote on the motion as it stands.
Ms. Schmidt,
Aye.
Diane,
Aye.
Mr. Foster,
Aye.
Mr. Fritsch,
Aye.
motion passed
4-0.
All right, folks, thanks. Item 10, recommendations for future agendas. We obviously know one that's coming up will be the nomination. I'm not sure what else we have coming up. I believe we may see some more stuff on 1204.
Yeah, there's a hearing at the Plan Commission next week regarding an amendment to part of the zoning code that will come in front of you at the following weekend or the following meeting. And then we're trying to accommodate some scheduling issues with December with the holidays and everything. So the meetings in early December might be busy, but we'll see. The agendas at this point certainly aren't full or aren't prepared.
Okay. All right, folks. Unless you have anything else, last minute comments. Thanks for a great meeting. We are adjourned. Thanks for joining us, Michelle.